You are looking at just one of the foundational studies in this new millennium of space weather and human health. Since this was published, the field has utterly taken off, but this paper truly said it best in the mental scheme of things. Severe disturbances of geomagnetic conditions cause negative influence, seriously disintegrate brain's functionality, activate braking processes, and amplify the negative emotional background of an individual. What does that mean? Cognition, locomotive functions, memory, anxiety, panic, depression, emotional instability, even suicide have been statistically correlated with the most severe geomagnetic storms. They are also correlated with extreme cosmic ray events, but today we can focus on the solar side and keep it to these psychological effects. A new study has tied cognition and memory to global brain waves oscillating in the alpha and theta frequencies, moving relatively slowly across the cortex considering we're talking about electrical energy, and so given that the psychological side of space weather and human health is firmly established statistically, but the mechanisms of action remain largely elusive or unproven, let's work on fixing that here. By the way, there are dozens of papers citing this and that previous one we showed, further establishing the field in the last 12 years, but given our brain focus, I'm choosing to remember some of the foundational pillars here today. Solar storms indeed produce extremely low-frequency waves, as shown by every relevant detector, but again, a blast from the past, we are remembering the Fluxgate magnetometer at HARP. While its antenna stimulated ionospheric plasma, this was one of the many detectors of magnetic field activity induced by the sun. We are right in that lower brainwave category here, including those we just discussed necessary for brain function. Well, to find the relationship to brain function specifically, we need to know the effects of these specific frequencies. Well, a key 2016 work looking at one of the key frequencies dinged by the sun in severe storm events found that locomotor activity, that electrical activity, was significantly decreased. The effects diminished in the hours and days afterward. Now, true enough, some frequencies are helpful. At 12 Hz exposure, it was found that memory improves, although notable that that study also found zero improvement in those lower ranges we were just talking about involved with the sun. The sacrifice that the study animals made here was to give us the definitive knowledge that the locus coeruleus takes a significant reduction in firing rate, and that the global brain proteome changes. The proteome is all the proteins able to be expressed by the cells and tissues in the brain, so changes to this are significant. The locus coeruleus, as intimidating a term as it might be, it offers the key to space weather walking in the door of our psyche. It is responsible for modulating our immediate psychological responses to stress and panic. And now we begin to very easily see how some of the symptoms and events, anxiety, depression, cognitive diminution, even suicide, could be connected dots here. This is how the sun makes Earth's magnetic field ring when it hits us hard. At least one of those frequencies specifically degrades electrical activity in the locus coeruleus, which degrades our ability to deal with stress and panic properly or in the way we normally do. Not to mention the global proteome changes and operation in the exact same frequencies we have just learned our brain is trying to use to operate cognitively. Sun, Earth, frequency, brain, stress. End of transmission.
Here is where it really gets cool. Fight back mentally. These things that are potentially coming in from space and having the ability to affect our bodies, they're electromagnetic. You've got an electromagnetic machine up here that is producing brain waves. You have a countervailing force. And it's not as though this countervailing force is totally insignificant. Sure, by any stretch of the imagination, whether you're looking at the size of your brain compared to the sun, or the electrical output, or the magnetic fields, or the range and spectrum of the waves produced, we're not talking about the same kind of stuff. We're talking about a tiny little brain. But at the same time, that tiny little brain is more powerful than the laws of physics and chemistry. That's called the placebo effect. There are these rules called biology and chemistry and physics, and they are supposed to govern what is happening inside your body. You don't have to change those biological, the chemical, and the physical parameters inside your body, although that is one way to change the outcome of things that are going on. Another way is to just think something differently. That's the placebo effect. It is very real, I assure you. Many hundreds of millions of dollars have been dumped into drugs only to be dashed at the last minute by the placebo effect, not being able to outperform somebody thinking that they should get better. Not being able to outperform somebody's brain telling their system. It's the placebo effect. It's this mundane thing that you all know about and shrug off. But it means you can overrule the powers of physics and chemistry within the system you control. And that is an absolutely appropriate definition, and don't let anyone tell you you don't have that power. Every time something happens on the sun that could affect human health, I tell myself, all right, you know what's coming. You know what to do with that energy. You even know the spectrum it's coming in on. Don't let it do anything bad. Use it. There's a video I did back in 2011 called I Am HAARP. And if you know what HAARP is, or I suppose if you don't know what HAARP is, it is an ionospheric heater. It basically uses electromagnetism to manipulate plasma way above our heads. And the idea is that you have a HAARP inside of your brain. You have an electromagnetic frequency generator that overpowers physics and chemistry every single day. And there is absolutely no reason why it couldn't help you in these situations as well. And what's important about that is it can hurt you too. I've seen people negative placebo themselves to bits. Somebody gets interested and says, hey, I had this event during this, and it was, it really threw me for a loop because I've never had this negative health outcome before. And was there anything going on the sun on that day? And I come back and I say, well, this was going on and this was going on. And lo and behold, every time something like that happens from then on, they email me and tell me about how bad they feel. It does work both ways. If you think something is going to negatively affect you, it can. If you think positively, I'm not saying you can manifest everything you want in the world, but you can manifest more positivity and happiness in yourself and certainly in others. Moods rub off on people. Some people are magnetic. There's a reason why we describe things in this way, and there's a reason why our brains hold the importance to us that they do. The ability to simply think something and without any other physical action of manifestation, you manifest reality. That is something that nobody should take lightly.